I've got to respond to that video before I actually go on to what I'm planning to say to you this afternoon. One of my past positions was working in a disability service which supports adults with intellectual disability live a life of meaning and satisfaction. And every morning going to work, I would pass the path of Amanda, who's a middle-aged woman with Down syndrome, and I'm going to tone down the language. Morning, Amanda. Fourth. You'd carry on. Next day, morning, Amanda. Fourth. Every day, you pass Amanda's path. Morning, Amanda. Fourth. One day, morning, Amanda. It's my birthday today. It took all my strength to not say to her, fourth, and walk on. True. True fact. Another true fact about Down syndrome. The most dangerous environment for a person with Down syndrome is the womb. Over 92% of people who have Down syndrome in the womb are aborted. We throw out as rubbish great gift, as we've seen there. And I've got an hour with you, and this is just the beginning. It's always good to start with God's word. From the letter to the Romans, therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. For by the grace given to me, I say to every one of you, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment, in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you. For just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function, so we in Christ, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to the other. We have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is giving, then give generously. If it is to lead, do it diligently. If it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully. So who have I come to be before you today? It's not a teacher, though I have taught or passed for teaching in secondary education in England, a small offshoot country next to Wales. It isn't as a theologian, though I've studied theology. I come to you today, as St. Paul says, as an encourager. I want to encourage you to think beyond what you believe you are capable of doing. I am here as an encourager. And to encourage better, we sometimes have to accuse people of doing less. I'm going to do that only so that I can encourage. I'm going to be talking about disability. I'm going to be talking about people with disability. But ultimately, I'm going to be talking to you about you. To you about you. And the first people I want to acknowledge thanks to are those men among us who have turned up without a tie. I feel so much more comfortable standing up here. When I rocked in with John and I saw all these ties walking in, I thought, oh, I've judged this wrong. And then there were a few men who turned up, and I want to thank you for that. John driving me in this morning, we talked about a range of things. Ended up talking about Tom Jones. We sang a few. A little bit karaoke in the car. You must have YouTubed them. If you haven't, do. They're brilliant. Then we started talking about Dylan Thomas. And I said, John, Fernhill. Oh, yes, I know Fernhill. Do you know what the village was called? And he said, no. And I said, well, in Fernhill, the play by Dylan Thomas, the village is called Llaregeb. And everybody thinks Llaregeb is a Welsh village. It's not. Llaregeb is bugger all spelt backwards. And in my delivery to you this afternoon, I don't want it to mean Llaregeb. I want it, through the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, to incite you to think beyond what you've grown accustomed to believe in, to being acceptable. Yeah? Yes? Yes. You've no choice. To belong, I need to be missed. Embracing disability. I want to say to the people here today who have children with disability, I am with you. For 10 years, I worked in a service supporting adults with intellectual disability. And for 10 years, I supported families to varying degrees in their search for understanding why. And it wasn't a why do I have this child the way I do, which they were searching for. It is the why are people not interested in my child belonging. And when the parent realized how their child so isn't included in the community, their pain, their deep and profound pain, was continually added to. So for those of you who are here, I do not know the pain, but I have listened to the pain and the hope. For those of you who are aunties and uncles of children who have disability, I do know that complication. I do know the pain. Uncle Neal has a niece who has a severe, profound disability. And so often it appears she doesn't belong. Okay. To belong, I need to be missed. John Swinton, scribble that name down, Google him, read him, he's good. John Swinton. He is a professor of Aberdeen University in Scotland. Writes tremendous words around the spirituality of people with intellectual disability. And it's his phrase, to belong, I need to be missed. And it's this. My experience. In my role as Group Coordinator Social Justice Advocacy, and I won't go into what I do because it sounds a lot, it adds up to very little. Goodbye. Yes, goodbye. I'm away from home an awful lot. And once my wife and my children get over the euphoria of Dad not being around, they begin to miss me. Why? Because I belong. Now I know Parramatta is light years ahead in regards to its engagement, its commitment, its determination, its struggle, its sense-making of seeking to include young children into mainstream education. I know that you are light years ahead. However, schools, however, Parramatta, if there are people in your school, in your classroom, who have particular needs which are difficult to the point of being excruciatingly frustrating. And when they're not there, you don't miss them. You may well be saying eloquently, I don't miss them. Because really, they don't belong here. They belong in a special school down the road. So pleased that that video was shown, because one of my roles within St John of God is to support St John of God Healthcare right across Australia to employ people with disability. We want to create that sense of belonging. Are you aware of your position in the community, our schools? Are you aware of the prophetic power you have as you seek to better include people with disability, people with special needs within mainstream education? Are you aware of the healing mission that you are a part of? You're more than a school. You're more than a system. I'm particularly deaf in my left ear, and when system was first mentioned this morning, I heard cistern. And I thought, well, actually, that could be a better word sometimes, who knows? But are you aware of the prophetic activities that you are engaged in? None of this I plan to say. Let's move on. So what's all this about, this next few minutes? What are we going to do? Explore the impact of disability. Going to do that in a moment. Investigate practices of inclusion, exclusive education, maybe not, see how I feel. Examine Catholic social teaching, incy bit, but go very, very deep. And then dream a little dream with me. Serenading you as well. Now, my PowerPoints are just going to be words, because what they're going to show to you is the gap between what I intended to say and what I am actually saying. Okay? And that's okay, because what I put out there, I offer to God. What he wants to instill in your hearts and in your minds is his business. Or let's be inclusive, is hers business. So I'm going to be bold. I'm going to share a story with you. How long have I got? What time do I be quiet? So, yeah, maths is no good. Give me a time. Okay, just give me a time. Give me a time. Isn't it difficult? Do you have the same difficulty in communicating with a 120? Bloody hell. What am I going to do for 120? Okay. Okay, we're going to have 10 minutes of talk and then 45 minutes of questions. Okay? And the answers are going to be discussed on your table, all right? Okay? No. Let's start by finding out who you are, what you do, and how long you've been a teacher for. Let's start over there. That'll save a bit of time. I'm going to share a story with you. And this story was shared with me. I've been in Australia 15 years, 16, 17, 18 years. Is 18 years old? But I think it's older than that. When I was pretending to teach in a very posh college in Leicester, England, the reason why I got the job is because I sound posh. People say to me, "Oh, Neal, you have a lovely accent. I could listen to it all day." And my response is, tell that to my wife and she'll tell you something completely different. I was part of the chaplaincy team. We would do lots of things with the boarding side of the school and also the day pupils, the day students. We would run lots of retreats and have great fun. I was teaching physics, chemistry, and applied maths. I was not. I was teaching colouring. That's what I was. I was teaching theology. I was teaching history. And I was failing miserably, but I was very popular. Not with my head of department, but hey, who is? We would also focus on the parents. And we would run retreats for parents. Sometimes we would segregate the men from the women. And sometimes we would be together. This time it was just the women. Don't ask me why. I can't remember. Not interested. We progress. Classical day. Meet and greet. 5 of us were in the team. Meet and greet. Talk. Discussion. Break. Talk. Discussion. Lunch. Talk. Home. During the lunch break, based on either what resonated in the lives of the people, through the talks, or something that was on their mind anyway, they would have opportunity to come and have a one-to-one session, either counselling or confession. We had a couple of priests there, tame priests who would come along as well. And we would just make ourselves available to listen. I want to tell you Mary's story. Change the names. Mary's story. Mary came into me. I don't know why. Maybe I do because I'm telling you today. It still enriches me. And she said, "I just need you to listen to me." I said, "Go ahead." She said, "I have 2 sons. William is my youngest. Robert is my eldest." Oh, Robert. 17 and a half, handsome man. Popular with people. In his school, vice captain. Captain of the first 15, the rugby team. opening batsman in the cricket team, studying really, really well, popular not only with the girls, but also with the boys. When he stands up to speak, he fills me with so much pride. I wonder how I could have produced such a magnificent child as Robert. Lots of potential, a credit, great source of pride and love. And then there's William. William is 13, and William has Down syndrome. And William can't speak very well. And William can't write at all. William loves to engage with people. When he was a little child, people were drawn to him. Women, young women, teenagers were drawn to him. And they just wanted to, in Wales it's called cwtchin, wanted to hug him. And he loved it and he'd hug them back. But now that he's 13, he's looking for that same behavior. And it's inappropriate and it is a concern to us. And then she started to cry. And this wasn't a sob. This was a heaving crying. And by this time, I'm quite concerned as to what's in front of me and what is coming next. And she said, when we take William out shopping or out anywhere, we've almost got to keep him on a lead. And when he throws a tantrum, he takes his clothes off. And that's a behavior we can't tolerate, and we can't cure. And she cries again. And through her tears, she says this. 6 months ago, Robert, and I'm feeling it now, was in a car accident and he died. Tears. I'm not crying for my loss of my beautiful Robert. I'm not crying for that today. I'm crying because as a mother, I cannot stop feeling that the wrong child died. As a mother, I cannot stop feeling that the wrong child died. And she's crying, and she's crying, and I'm sitting there crying. She doesn't say anymore. And to my horror, she's expecting me to speak to her. Now, what did I say? Words like, isn't it soon? Or it's too soon. You're still grieving at the loss of Robert, to be grieving at the presence of William. Maybe it's about wanting for William what was lost in the giftedness of Robert. Oh, I don't know what I said. I said to her, though, let's pray. So I could take the focus off me and take the focus off her and put the onus on God. And we prayed. And then she was worried about her eyes and all the rest of it. And off she went. And someone else came in. 17, 18 years ago. I got a letter from Mary. I just want to thank you, Neal, for the time that we spent together. It was helpful. As a family, we're going to grief counselling. I've come to realise through our discussion that William is grieving the loss of his brother. And I didn't know that. I'm also going with my husband to marriage counselling to try to repair the fractured relationship we have. And I am not without hope, because you introduced me to God through that prayer. And I'm full of expectation. Thank you. Parramatta, as a ministry of the church through education, do not underestimate the depth in which you work from. When you invite people with disability, with support needs into your school, because I guarantee you, you are one of the chosen, healing instruments of God, not just for that child, not just for that community, for that family, but for the community, in which you demonstrate your prophetic vision of what it means to be. And ultimately, it's about belonging. Irrespective of the struggle, irrespective of the cost, because we have an example of ultimate cost of Christ dying on the cross for us. And we're not asked to be crucified, we're asked to include. And sometimes we may feel that that's crucifixion. Got to be deep, haven't we? This is the level I want you to work out of. Now, I can't remember what's on the next slide. Dare I? Let's be a little bit lighter now, eh? Maybe. Oh, look. Predominantly with adults with intellectual disability, okay? Parents, even when their children are adults, 30, 40, 50-year-old, it's as though they're 5, 6, 7-year-old. What do you think they fear? What do you think adults fear when they have a child with disability? What do they fear? Anybody? What will happen to them when I'm not around? And I was talking to Elsie one day, 82 Elsie is. And she's got a child who's 53, living with her, behaviour of concerns. But he gets fed, he gets cleaned, he gets housed. He's not a concern to the department. You might push her around, but that's tough. She said, you know, Neal, when I'm sure I'm dying, I might take Gavin with me. I said, come on, Elsie. Surely not. Elsie's still alive, and so is Gavin. You know what? You know what? We're now going to look at ourselves. How long have I got? Good news. Lots of time. We're going to ask questions. This is tilling the soil of your hearts and your minds, by the way, so I can actually say what I want to say. This isn't it. This is just tilling your hearts and minds to get ready. When I get out the manure and dig it in and sow the seed. Deeper understand. What do we value in our lives? What do we value? Our independence, our professional standing, our success, our car, our children. What is it that we value in our lives? The ability to go on overseas holidays. The ability to call life the way that I like to. What do I value maybe on that Friday evening? That glass of Shiraz. Followed by that second glass of Shiraz. And in the Murphy household, should there be an opportunity for a third glass of Shiraz, I do it alone. Because my wife looks at me and says, is that you a third glass of wine? And it turns to vinegar the moment I put it to my lips. Yeah? What do we value in? It isn't a question we often really ask ourselves. What is it that we could not live without? Again, I'm drawn to that first, second, third glass of Shiraz. But what is it that we could not live without? Women, I'm sure you're saying, first of all, well, my husband. Because we are, aren't we, guys? And think it because they'll know, they'll have picked up, they know. What is it we cannot do without or live without? Profound question. Difficult to answer, especially when we don't reflect on these things quite often. And do you know what? By not reflecting on these things, life trips us up. What is best about our world? What is best about my world? My greatest achievement are my children. Unbelievable. I got Jordan, who's 13 in March. I got Jessica, who will be 12 in June. Not a complete bastard. We actually planned it to have them that close. Amazing children growing up, looking like their mother. God is merciful. What is best about our world? How do we express that we belong? One of the most scary statements I can come out with at home is, I got a bit of time, I might do some handiwork around the house. Always goes wrong. And then my wife phones her father to come along and repair the crap that I have created. And he just bursts in, blah, 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 waltzes out, and I can see the glowing eyes of my wife saying, "Look what Dad has done again." Very helpful, thank you, Roger. But how do we express? It is around professional engagement. It is about being the best dad or the best mother or the best teacher. We measure ourselves against the yardsticks of success personally and also professionally. And the love that we have. You know what? Love, l'amour. No matter who we are, no matter what our achievements are, two things unite us that we cannot live without. Everything can be reduced to two things. One is to love, and the other one is to be loved. We have those two experience in our lives. We are fulfilled. And that's what I want today to be about. This, an act of love. Because if it isn't an act of love, Paul reminds us it's just an empty noise. It's a cymbal clashing. It's an empty sound. And to be successful around inclusion, we have to see what we do as teachers as an act of love. Because again, otherwise, it's an empty gesture. It's an empty noise. And that love component can get us across the line and say, yes, I'm going to try tomorrow. What is the basic purpose in the work that I do? To teach, yes. To support, yes. What is the basic purpose in the work that I do? Me, within my work, it is to remind people of how good they are and the call of God for them to work in the ministry of St. John of God and touch the lives of those who they are with. And I use that language in the face of everything. Because if I don't use that language, who else is going to use it? If you don't use that language, who else is going to use it? And let me tell you, the world needs that language. We'll move on. That's a biggie. What is my basic purpose in life? Huge. We don't touch that. We should. Here we go. The unique aspects I bring to my work. People say to me, "Oh, Neal, you're so funny." Thank you very much. It's a compliment. I am more than my wit. It is the most appealing feature of myself, mind you. But, what values are most important to what I do? And we'll just move on. What are the critical considerations that I make within my work? We don't normally look at these things. However, should you either acquire a disability or give birth to a child who has a disability, what is my basic purpose in the life that I lead becomes top of the agenda, and it is to protect and care for my child. For those who have a child with disability, I'm not talking about you. I have sat with parents of mature children with disability with behaviours of concern, with learning difficulties, and they have wept. Well, you think they would have got over it by now. Well, they haven't, and they never will. But where they advance in life is the support of the community that is around them. I had one mother say to me, I've only recently, now this is her child, he's in his early 30s. And she said to me, I've only recently stopped accusing myself of the disability being on account of the licorice that I ate when I was pregnant with him. There is no evidence that licorice does anything to anyone beyond staining their teeth. And yet, in their struggle to make sense of their situation in life with their child, she was accusing herself of being a licorice eater and so the cause of her son's disability. And I said, that doesn't make sense. And she said, I know. And it isn't through the want of trying that I continued, or it isn't through the want of trying to stop thinking that I continue to. Paramatta, are you now aware of the depth and the prophetic presence you are taking up? I hope so. I didn't touch that. Maybe that's God wanting me to move on. Well, I'm not going to, because I haven't finished. Well, maybe I have on that section. I don't want to labour it, but you can't. Families come, no, children with disability often come with families of chaos. And sometimes it's not about the child, it's about the chaos that the child brings with them. And by God, do I know how difficult it is to run a service. And there's militant parents who continually battle to make sure that their children get the rights that they deserve. And if we build an armour which protects ourselves from listening to that, we will not be effective leaders. There needs to be strategies around protecting ourselves, but not listening and seeing them just as one-dimensional and not seeing all aspects of their lives is doing them a disservice. We're now going to a little bit of research stuff here now about inclusive education, yes, no, or maybe. I'm not going to go into great detail. Certainly not going to cite the research papers, because that would be a little bit boring. And also, I want to say things that have no foundation whatsoever. And that's... There we are. Oh. It's split. Mainstream inclusion, special developmental schools. I have yet to come across any evidence which suggests, any research paper which strongly suggests that having people with intellectual disability or learning needs, whatever you want to call it, in a special development school equips them for life better than those who are in the mainstream. I haven't heard of any. I can't find any. There's a lot of talk about it, but there is no conclusive evidence. There is also, there is evidence around including people in mainstream and how we can support them in many, many ways. But there's no evidence out there which says that it is better than. That I can find. However, my experience shows that mainstream school is the place to be. And if I had my way, which I do not and will not, I would close down every special developmental school and pour all that resource into mainstream schooling so that there can be holy chaos for a little while, and then semblance of order and achievement. So, okay, let's have a look at what parents' attitudes are. Parents, once they've got over the trauma of bringing into the world a child with special needs, they're immediately shuffled into early intervention, and they're supported to make a semblance of sense of what this means and then what the future looks like. And as the years go by, parents with these children, they build up a social group of parents with other children in the same sort of bracket, and they're a support to each other, and that's okay. However, for many, their expectation of the capacity of their child severely diminishes as the years go by. Be safe, be happy, bring them home. I want you to make sure that my child is safe. I want you to make sure that my child is happy, and I want you to bring them home in the same condition that they left me this morning. Special developmental schools are not bad. I just don't think they're enough. Now, what's good about it? That emotional support of parents who speak the same language and make sense of it all, absolutely. The resources, to a degree, are good. But my experience also of developmental schools is that they settle for the lowest common denominator. And there is no real education from an academic perspective. And I'm being generalist here, because I know of some successful ones, but I know of others that are far from successful. On growing the person, to equip the person to be a contributing citizen within this country. But parents love it because it's a safe environment. And parents want their children to feel safe. And not to expose them, not to make them vulnerable to failure and judgment. And so we'll keep them here. And then you realize whose needs you are actually serving. There was a young man with Down syndrome who, when I discovered, wanted to work in an office. I said, Andrew, what are you going to do when you're in an office? He says, well, I'm going to put on my best pants, my polished shoes, my best shirt, my tie. I'm going to have a briefcase. I'm going to sit at my desk, which has a phone. What are you going to do when you're there? I'm going to look cool because I'm going to have my best shoes on, my best pants. He just wanted an office environment. And so there was a course going where we would, anyone in the community could apply. It was a 5-week, 6-7-week course around office management. And I said, interested? Absolutely. Went to her parents and said, he's interested in doing this course. We'll pay it. We'll take him there. We'll bring him home. We need your consent. No way. Absolutely no way. He cannot do that. What makes you think he can't do that? I know my son. I know his capacity. I know his abilities. He can't do that. I persuaded her to let him go. he came back with a certificate. And on that certificate it said he passed. And he did, by the skin of his teeth, with support, he passed. And Teresa, his mother, I said, look what he achieved. And she said to me, yeah, but he didn't really achieve that. They just cut corners for him. And there's no winning. When you include children with educationally special needs, with disability in your school, what you are saying to the community, what you are saying to the family, what you are saying to the parents is, this child not only has the capacity to grow and contribute, but you are dealing with a school that is determined to achieve that. And quite often, that could be the only time parents will ever hear that language. And it's a threat to them, and absolutely, it's a challenge to the school, but it's a challenge that you are committed to meet. Surely. And if you are not, surely you are now, because you understand the depth of which your engagement with this young life actually means. There is research by a guy called O'Connor, I think it is, in the UK. I think it's a bit harsh. I'm going to share it with you. Connor. This is what he says. Something like, further research by O'Connor, who offered an analysis of parental choice. Mainstream, where are you? Mainstream. Now I do. Hello? Yeah. Now I do feel like a lecturer, let me tell you. Further research by O'Connor, which offers analysis of parental choice. Parents who demand special schooling, he says, is an expression of grieving and loss from the normal child they hope to have. And they want that child to be protected. And they want that child to be nourished in a safe environment. That doesn't challenge them. Because he says the parents are too busy coping with their own grief. And what they don't want is to be reminded in a main school environment that their child is not like the other child or the other children. It's research. But then those who choose mainstream schooling, they don't get away with it either, because Connor says, well, they're in denial. It isn't about the child, it's about the child's right to access. And he says the children, the parents are not particularly interested in education. They're interested in the child having the right to education. And that the denial of the parents is based around not admitting to the special needs. Well, okay. But come on. Bug it if you do and bug it if you don't. You know, it's a bit harsh, isn't it? But for us, who are a ministry of the church, we have a Christian hope which recognizes the innate dignity and potential of that individual, which drives us forward in supporting this child to live a good day today and a good day tomorrow through learning and inclusion. So the parents then who choose, they become mainstream. They're characterized through research sometimes as rather militant. They are advocating for their child all the time and sometimes are not the most popular of parents and the most easy parents in which to engage with. And when young Neal isn't attending for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, off and on, when he's not there, there's a sigh of relief. Because when we don't see Neal, we don't see his parents. These are all words that's been written about. That is not ministry. That is escaping from the responsibility of our commitments as a school in Parramatta or anywhere else. A little bit of an encouragement there, maybe an accusation. I'm speaking to no one, and yet I'm speaking to everyone. Teachers' attitudes. Yep, no, yep, love the idea, difficult to do, think it's a beautiful concept, but you know what? The reality is different. Emotional behaviors, difficult interaction, outbursts, complicated conversations, and that's just the staff room. When you want to then bring in all of that within your pupils, haven't I got enough to put up with? Are you asking me to do anything, to do more? What have I done to deserve this? You must really not like me. And yet, there is the commitment as an education facility to be at service to these young lives, to be at service to these families. And research is out there. I don't know whether it was America or England or somewhere in the world. Many first-year students within this research, or first graduate teachers, first year left because they didn't have the knowledge, the understanding, or the resource to support those people, those students in their class with special needs. And so, research clearly indicates that if we're going in this space, we've got to have the right resources. But it further states, more importantly, we've got to have the right attitude. We've got to have the right understanding. We've got to have the right appreciation of what we are seeking to achieve here first. And then we identify what resources are required. And interestingly enough, again, research is showing that those teachers who were doing it found it quite, not easy, but it was achievable. Those who were not engaged in it and were thinking about it, their language was that it was impossible to do. And the research talks about you only know how to do it by doing it. And don't be seduced by the argument. Once everything is in place, we then boldly step forward confidently that we can include people with special needs in our school. Don't be seduced by the right moment. Once I've got all the resources. Because evidence shows you do not know what resources you really need until you start doing it. And special aids are not the answer. Because the pattern is the teacher will teach the normal children, and the special aid will teach those with learning difficulties, where the aid is in fact an aid to the teacher. A resource to support the teacher. Conversations have to be had. Arguments, quarrelling need to occur. Consensus needs to be reached. And then commitment needs to be made. Because if you say to a mother and a father who are battling through life to make meaning of their child, if you say to these people, we will ensure that this child gets the best education that this child needs so that they may grow, and you're half-hearted about that, and you don't really mean that, I say to you, shame on you. Because they don't need you in their lives. They need more than that. And the narrative on the website is positive. It is saying that we will achieve. Let's move on. Please, don't. What we're going to do is have a game of one round of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Or Who Wants to Be the CEO? Which saint do schools venerate to support their success? Is it? Thank you, Eddie. I'm listening. St. Luke? Is it St. Thomas? Hands up, the RE coordinators here. Hands up. Come on, there we are. Good, thank you. Thank you, I see you. Is it Saint Scholastica? Is it Saint Aloysius? 5-second discussion. Who is it? Who do you think? Okay, time up. All right, listen. Thank you, teachers. Okay, please. Stand up those who think it's St. Luke. Stand up those who think it's St. Luke. Okay. Stand up those who think it's St. Thomas. Okay, you are so confident. What school are you? St. Thomas Aquinas. Such an intellectual, a doctor of the church. Pity that's not reflected in the current staff of that school, because thank you very much, sit down. Who thinks it's Saint Scholastica? Stand up. Okay. Thank you, sit down. All right then. Who thinks it's Saint Aloysius? Stand up. Look, some of you are not playing. I consider this schoolyard bullying. And as we know, the answer is trick question. Or VTech. The yardstick of success. You know, my son in year 5, was it? Started to study for the NAPLAN results in kinder. So they can go through it. They were worried. We were worried. It is important. There are legislative requirements. We have to demonstrate excellence. We have to demonstrate success. But let's couch it within our mission and ministry as healing properties, healing influences within the church. Yes, of course. But we don't venerate NAPLAN. We venerate that interaction and that achievement between all people. There's a school in Victoria, prominent Catholic school. And they have one child who their disability means that sometimes they can walk, she can walk, and sometimes she's in a wheelchair. And depending on how she turns up on the day, governs where the classes are in the building. And it's very, very difficult to arrange. And they do it. They shift the table the timetable every time, the classroom. They do it. They're committed. Part of their commitment is, yes, we embrace the chaos. There's another girl, Down syndrome, the school gala, the swimming pool. Yeah? She only swam in her round half a length and got a resounding applause. People were screaming, well done, well done, well done. But you know, then there were those other people who couldn't swim very well, who put in just as much as this young girl. They didn't get an applause. They didn't get that validation from the school. So it's a strange thing, isn't it? To have people in the school who have special needs, who have profound disability, can sometimes take the focus off others, but we try not to achieve that. Okay, thanks. Catholic social teaching. How long have I got left? 2 minutes? 2 minutes? Oh, God, I had so much to say to you. All right, here we go. 2 minutes? It's going to be the longest 2 minutes in history. There is so much. You'll have to get me back. There we are. I want you to dream a little with me. Planning alternative tomorrows with hope. Unconditional positive regard. Carl Rogers, psychologist. This is what I want to see in people. Unconditional positive regard, given any circumstance. 2 minutes. These two guys, Andrew Dacey, Andrew Croslin, known each other right through life. Both of them has profound intellectual disability. They went to special developmental schools, which actually means for them, they don't know how to function in society. They have no academic prowess. They have no CV. They have no self-expectation to work, especially Andrew Croslin on the far left there, or right, looking at him. This is the mission statement of St. John of God. We proclaim the healing mission. We live and proclaim the healing mission of God's love, where we invite people to discover a richness and fullness of their life, give them a reason to hope and a greater sense of dignity, their own dignity. Education does that for people. Gives them the sense of hope and underlines a great sense of dignity in their lives. This is what we're about, in including people with disability in mainstream education. It is about dignity, made in the image and likeness of God. And we can sometimes be the only protectors of that. And it just isn't a dignity based on benevolence. It's based on challenging that individual to grow and become a better them. "10 seconds. I want to accuse you of being successful. I accuse you in the name of every child with special needs, in the name of every family who has gone through the trauma of producing a child with disability, in the name of the community who needs a prophetic understanding and role modeling about how to include people who are different than ourselves. I accuse you of being successful. I accuse you of creating the space and the collaboration. I accuse you of creating frameworks of engagement and platforms of success, which increases for those individuals and so gives hope to the families that their child is worth more than what they believe them to be. I accuse you of being successful. For those schools who are doing it very well, please share your resources with those who are struggling. For those of you who are struggling, be humble and seek out help from those who are successful. Don't be a half-hearted prophet. Be a prophet who is called by God to listen and carry out his will, the healing mission of Jesus Christ. This is what we're about when we include children with special needs in our schools. Thank you for listening.